Hi, Jed from Cook Culture. So as I've spoken about before, I was raised a vegetarian. So eating vegetarianism is a lot of vegetables, dairy, and eggs. And so when I was being raised by my British mother, who's actually an African British mother, that's a whole nother story, she would always stop at the local farm and pick up eggs and dairy, and she skimmed her milk, she made cottage cheese. Dairy was a big part of growing up. As I've gotten older, I've come to realize that I can't have dairy as much as I love dairy, and really enjoyed everything you made, Mom, thank you. But one of my big faves was custard, and in the world of custard is creme brulee, and I love creme brulee. And so I've been working hard lately to try to make a vegan creme brulee because I miss creme brulee, I miss custard. I don't miss a lot of things about being vegan, but I do miss custard because I do really enjoy it. So I've been playing around with different variations of very simple recipes and trying to figure out how to make this work. So today I'm gonna make what I think is going to work out well. I've been making it work, and it's a little bit finicky just to make it from a soft kind of custard that's like a pudding to a true custard that's hard. And that's the difference. Like creme brulee pudding, not so much. Creme brulee, hard, thickened base with the sugar burnt on top, brilliant. So that's what we're gonna be doing. So in this recipe, and I'll put the ingredients and the method in the notes on the YouTube channel. So you can just look at the bottom of this video and there's the recipe. That's where it is. Lots of people have been asking for recipes. That's where I'm putting them. Okay, so we're gonna use a can of coconut milk, and coconut milk is really important. So this is Thai Kitchen organic coconut milk. Organic, that's totally up to you, but the Thai Kitchen the Thai Kitchen is what I find works well. It's got beautiful fat, it's super creamy. I find this is the most expensive one too, is by the way, that you'll find. I find cheap ones, they're grainy and gritty and watery and just like completely nasty. They're just not nice whatsoever. So what I suggest is this one. If you found one that you like, some people have, I've heard people like Blue Monkey, that's great. If you found one that's creamy with a lot of fat on the top, that's tremendous, okay? So that is huge. I have soaked my cashews. I've read recipes and I've tried with non-soaked. I find soaked just gets creamier faster and works really well. So we've got a can of coconut cream. We've got a 1/4 cup of soaked cashews. We have a 1/4 cup of coconut sugar here. You can use granulated sugar. You can use whatever type of sugar you want. I'm just using a nice mild coconut sugar. It's also gonna put a nice color into it. And then we're gonna put in a teaspoon of vanilla. And the magic ingredient here is arrowroot powder. So 1 tablespoon of arrowroot powder, and this is what's gonna be our binder. So you can read and find different recipes for non-cook. I haven't found a non-cook recipe for creme brulee that doesn't just turn into creme brulee pudding. And for me, that's a problem. So we're gonna cook this up today. So we're gonna get the pan up to, we're gonna simmer this. So I always use a knife in the can here. Like you could go in with a spatula, but I find that this is quite soft right now, but if you have had it in the fridge, I will keep a can of this in the fridge a lot of time because for making coconut whipped cream, you want this cold. You can take this out and just whip it in a bowl with a spatula, with a whisk, and you're gonna get coconut whipped cream. It's fantastic to replace as regular whipped cream, and it's exactly the same. So a can of coconut milk, all the fat, all the water, in it goes. We're gonna throw in the 1/4 cup of cashews, the coconut sugar, and a teaspoon or so. You know, vanilla to me is not an exact measurement. And then open up our arrowroot powder. I'm gonna put, I'm a big fan, I don't love chunky, even though we're gonna be putting this into a food processor, into Vitamix. I find that I like always just, this is a habit, maybe from making roux and souffle and white roux as growing up. I just always really like to try to mix my flours in without making them chunky, but I don't know, that might be impossible here, but it's just a habit that I have. So I'm gonna have all of that mixed in, and that's gonna come up to a simmer. So we're just gonna wait for that to simmer. And then once that, yeah, so you can see if you look close, we've got some chunky of the arrowroot powder. Nothing I can do about that, I guess. Arrowroot is a little bit like that, so always be cautious of that. If you're not gonna be putting this into a blender, arrowroot is always kind of, because it gets quite gelatinous really quickly. This is going to come to a simmer, and then we're gonna get it into the Vitamix. So back with you in a sec. Okay, so we've just got it coming to a tiny bit of a simmer, and it's really starting to thicken up here. As you can see, it's, you know, as custardy, you always want to have it smooth on the back of a spoon. That's a rule of when your custard is ready. So just starting to get some nice little bubbles. If you can look in there, just little bubbles coming. We don't want to burn it, we don't want to overcook it. Okay, so that's going to come off the heat, and now we're going to go over to the Vitamix. So into there we go. So unfortunately I was patient with it and I didn't burn it onto the bottom. So I didn't have it too cranked up. Okay, so that's in there. And this isn't going to take very long to get it nice and smooth because those cashews are fully soaked. You can smell it. The smell's being pushed out of the lid here. You can see little puffs coming out, and it smells really, really good. It smells like creme brulee, so it's going to taste like creme brulee. You know, the trick here is that we want to get the consistency. The consistency is king. Okay. So this recipe is for 4. So we're gonna try to just, like creme brulee for me, like you can measure, I always kind of eyeball. Somebody's always gonna get too much and somebody's gonna get too little. That's just how it is. However, creme brulee, when you're doing it, thin is key. If you make it too thick, you'll find that the cooling process, when you go to put on the sugar and burn the sugar, it kind of heats everything up too much, and then it doesn't thin and cool the sugar that well. So I've found that when I've made them too thick, I put them sometimes into like narrow, tall cups. I find the sugar, for whatever reason, just doesn't harden up the right way. It doesn't become that nice thin, when it goes into the fridge to cool, it doesn't become that nice thin little glass. And it's got everything to do with how thin that is in the cup there. So we've got that all done. Those are hot. And so those guys there are gonna go into the fridge, and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You could put these in for a couple hours. I found best success overnight. So we're gonna put them in for well over 12 hours. So tomorrow morning when we come back into work is when we're going to get these out, sugar them, and use the creme brulee torch and finish these things up. So we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, hi. So we're back. The next day, you can tell we're wearing different clothes, and actually my daughter, who was the camera lady before, is now in the shot because she is going to show us how we're going to make this into the creme brulee, right? Yeah. So what we're going to do here, we've got these guys nicely chilled, and they are perfect. So they move a tiny bit, so they're a tiny bit custardy. They're not as hard as what you would get out of cooking egg. So if you cooked these in a water bath in the oven, so what I'm saying is if this was an egg and cream mixture, they would have gone into a water bath and baked into the oven. These guys here, as you saw before, we cooked them on the stovetop, and so they're a little bit soft, but they are hard enough for my liking. They're not soft, runny. So earlier I was talking about how the sugar is better when it's thinner. What I was meaning by that is once we get the sugar on and burn it and it hardens and we've got that kind of glass of sugar on top, when it's thinner, it seems to get harder. And so when you actually crack through, that we'll show you later on, to take a scoop, it's more of a crack and you've got like shards of the bruleed sugar. So we'll show you instead of me yabbering on about it. So what we're going to do is put on a generous amount of the white granulated sugar, and with that you can kind of make some, as Chloe did there, she's kind of made like little thicker parts. You can always just shake it around afterwards and get it everywhere you want. Just be careful of getting it all around your edge. If you shake it all over, you're going to get it kind of all around your edge and none in the middle. So you want to make sure that it's all around. Quite generous. You're probably putting, you know, on something this large of probably a full tablespoon, and maybe a bit more than a tablespoon. And as you can see, she's trying to get it everywhere. So now it's got really nice coverage. It's got a little bit of thinness there, but you can always fill that in later, as you'll see. So she's using a torch here. So this torch is much bigger and much more powerful than one of the regular torches that a lot of people are used to, that are like, you know, yay big, and you fill them up with butane on the bottom. And so, yeah, you can get going. So this one here has a can of gas that you can get from us or any hardware store. And then this top is what's so absolutely awesome. So the top that she's using attaches to any butane cartridge bottle, and it will work upside down, all around, whichever way you put it. And you can control it really, really, really well. And it's super, super hot. You can actually do small home welding with this thing. It's pretty nuts. So she's trying to get it just brown like she has there, but not black. Black is bad. Dark caramelized brown is awesome. And so she's doing an absolutely amazing job. She's fairly well practiced at doing this. And it does take a little bit of practice of just kind of getting what you're used to, seeing it, understanding how, when you pull away, how close you get, what that kind of boiling point is. You know, and even at that, if you do get a little bit of a black spot, it's not a big deal. It will happen, and it's not the end of the world. But what she's going to do is just finish up here, and then that one's going to be pretty much good. What she's doing is making sure that she has consistency all the way across, and she doesn't have any custard exposed. So there you go. So that's number one done, and we're going to move on to the second one, just so you can kind of see this done again. So you shake it all over, and again, like if she got too much in one spot, it's not that big of a deal whatsoever. You can always, yeah. So always be very, very careful with touching the outside. Hold on one sec. I'm just going to show them. So you can always shake it a little bit this way around also to get it all around, but you'll still want to make sure that you fill in the edges as she's going to do. The thing that's really, really nice with something that is as powerful as this is that we don't remelt the custard very much. It will brûler it so quickly that you're not overheating the custard, because if you melt the custard, it all kind of becomes one on the surface, and then you don't really get that kind of glassy finish. So she's just twisting the handle on this guy and then pushing the button. It's as easy as that. It's already preset. You don't have to set the flame coming out of it like a real blowtorch. It's meant for culinary, and it works beautifully. So those guys just attach on, and you replace the gas when you've run out. And one of those lasts several months for most people that are doing this once in a while. So a little bit of trick, as you see, she's pulling away just to kind of see what's going to happen once it kind of bubbles and burns. And then she's going back in again. And that's a really good strategy of doing it instead of kind of staying on. Another way that you can do it is get your sugar on and hold the torch and move this around in your hand. Not the only way to do it. The way Chloe's doing it is great too. Sometimes I find I can really kind of get in there and I can move my angles a lot. She finds it really comfortable. The edge of this guy gets really hot. This is just starting to cool down now. So you want to be very, very careful. You don't need to worry if you have this in your hand about burning your hand. It's not going to burn your hand. That far away from the flame isn't going to do it. You know, it will if you held it directly on there, but I wouldn't be worried about it. So there she is getting those done. We're gonna finish up the other two, and then you got a little bit right here, babe. You got a little bit right on the edge there. It's always good just kind of look at all angles to make sure that you don't have any white little chunkies, because it's nice to have it with it all fully melted across. But that brown all the way there, that's your flavor. That's what you're looking for. So we'll finish up the other two. We're gonna put these back into the oven, back into the fridge for another 2 hours. So these have been in the fridge all overnight, well over 24 hours. And then we're gonna put them in for another couple hours just to fully cool up, because you wanna have them nice and cool. So we've got these guys out of the fridge. They have spoon, please. A nice, hard, crunchy top to them, which is absolutely perfect. And now we're gonna move on to the taste test. And nobody better to taste than these two. Is it good? Mm-hmm. Come have some.
Yeah, it's like glass on the top.
Yeah, and is it creme brulee like?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Actually, I don't know what it tastes like.
So the custard, if you want to come take a nice close look here, so it's still a little bit custardy, but it's quite a lot thicker than what I had been doing without the cook method. So the arrowroot really helps it thicken up. So if you take a look there, so it's a little bit runny in there, but not too much. And it's gonna have, can I have a try? And thank you.
I was gonna say it tastes exactly like it, but I have no idea what it tastes like.
That's right. It tastes like creme brulee. Okay, so this seems to have worked out quite well. Still a tiny bit runny for me watching it, but they really don't seem to be complaining about this. So I find that it's not too pudding-ish-y, but it could be thicker. So maybe a little bit more arrowroot, and it might thicken up a little bit. But I find that the arrowroot, if we use too much, it becomes a little powdery. You can actually get the taste and the feel of it. So I will continue making more creme brulee and experimenting, but I hope this works out well for you. It's a fantastic, dairy-free, yummy creme brulee semi-pudding recipe, and it works out beautifully. So I'd say it's 8 out of 10. So I hope this worked for you. Thanks so much.